In the top stories, business sector calls for social partnership meeting. Canadian couple speaks about armed robbery in Bath. And Barbados return to the Fed Cup after 6 years. Welcome to Nation News for Tuesday, April the 8th, 2014.
Introducing the all-new Rubigas LPG composite bottle from Rubis. These exclusive 22-pound bottles weigh 50% less than traditional steel cylinders and can be used for picnicking and day-to-day home needs. These composite bottles are translucent, allowing you to see the liquid level at all times, so you will never run out of gas unexpectedly. Lightweight, visible gas level, portable, corrosion-proof, eco-friendly. The Rubigas LPG composite bottle, available from Rubis.
The Barbados Social Partnership, once held up as an example to the world, has not met in full for a whole year, according to the new chairman of the Umbrella Private Sector Association. Alex MacDonald, the former Barbados CEO of Lime, said that break was far too long and the country's social and economic problems demanded an early meeting. The Social Partnership, a loose alliance of government, business and labor, was set up during the country's last big recession in the 1990s. Mr. MacDonald told a news briefing that the repercussions of the current public sector retrenchment were crying out for a full meeting of the grouping. He said the partnership had served the country well over the last 2 decades and could do so in the future. The president of the National Organization of Women, Marlene Rice Bowen, wants government to divert some of the funds allocated to constituency councils to the organization's shelter for battered women. In an address to local seroptimists, Ms. Rice Bowen questioned the wisdom of cutting funding to the shelter at a time when she said violence against women was escalating.
Against a backdrop of an increase in domestic violence-related deaths, we had 6 in 2013, and today 2. Why was the shelter budget cut? Is this the time to cut the budget to the shelter? How will this cut affect the quality of service extended to survivors? The shelter can't be closed or services can't be withheld. The women of this country are in need of this service.
Minister of Social Care and Constituency Empowerment Steve Blackett was in the audience to hear the remarks by NOW's president. A young Canadian family who were victims of an armed attack at Bath in St. John last month has been speaking to the Canadian media about their experience. On their return home, Jonathan and Heather Hubble said they were grateful to the Barbados Tourism Authority and police force who assisted after the robbery and the Canadian High Commission. Jonathan, whose grandmother was born in Barbados, was shot in the attack. Despite the ordeal, the couple, who are soldiers and have served in Afghanistan, said they will return to Barbados. They said their military training had helped them to remain calm during the robbery. The police arrested 4 men within a week of the crime. The Barbados land ship is calling out for help to survive. Lord High Commander Vernon Watson said that 90% of the membership were young people at school and this had saved the 150-year-old ship from running aground. Commander Watson was speaking at the relaunch of Winston Farrell's play House of Landship. Producer of the production, Ashanti Trotman, said the landship was at a crossroads and needed a succession plan and any assistance that could be given. Next, our regular Tuesday feature, commentary with Carol Martindale.
The long-awaited cleanup campaign to regulate the public service vehicle sector has begun, and no doubt Barbadians and visitors alike are breathing a sigh of relief. For far too long, there have been complaints about driving patterns on the road, constant breaking of road rules, speeding, and the sometimes slovenly appearance of workers. Yesterday, drivers and conductors began wearing official uniforms again, and Minister Michael Lashley said roughly 98% of them had complied. The minister said a new Transport Authority Act would soon be taken to Parliament to fully regulate the sector. We also eagerly await Phase 2, which will address the playing of music, especially those songs with lewd and crude lyrics. Children often travel on the vans and are like sponges soaking up these lyrics. We welcome these changes. However, Barbados has always had a problem with enforcement, so don't let this be another exercise. Let's make it a vehicle of positive change.
News about our neighbours now. A St. Lucian opposition MP, Guy Joseph, is concerned that new taxes could destroy the country's cruise tourism. Mr. Joseph, a former transport minister, said the introduction of VAT in October 2012 had hurt manufacturing and was now poised to do the same to the cruise sector amid projections of reduced traffic this year.
What happens to the taxi drivers? Some of these taxi drivers really work half of the year and they have to make enough to sustain themselves for the other half of the year during the peak period. So you're talking about all of these taxi operators, the vendors. Even though the spending is not much these days, but can you imagine the numbers going down?
Authorities in Guyana are investigating whether locally mined gold is being mixed with silver and sold abroad as pure gold. Mining Minister Robert Prasad said officers are trying to determine the extent of the fraud. So far, 4 people have been arrested. Mr. Prasad says Guyana will collaborate with overseas law enforcement agencies to determine if there is a foreign element in the racket. Gold is Guyana's main export. Sport now. In tennis, Barbados are contesting the Fed Cup, the women's equivalent of the Davis Cup, for the first time in 6 years. They are in Puerto Rico to compete in Group 2 of the Americas Zone. The zone features 12 teams, including top seeds Guatemala, Chile, and Trinidad and Tobago, and it's split into 4 groups of 3 under an initial round-robin format. The Barbados team comprises Anisha Eiffel, who is based in the United States, and talented teams Malena Lopez, Kiana Marshall, and Cherise Slocum. The non-playing captain is Rochelle Basaldo. Barbados have won their 3rd straight match of the Caribbean Netball Association's Jean Pierre Tournament in Antigua. They beat Dominica 35-24. Zakia Curtin got her first start at the tournament and scored 18 goals from 28 attempts, while captain Shaniqua Thomas scored 17 from 24. Barbados' next game in the Under-16 tournament will be against Jamaica on Thursday night. And finally, the grandparents of an 8-year-old girl in Virginia in the United States say they've pulled her out of a local Christian school because school administrators think she looks too much like a boy. A TV station reported that Sunny Colley's grandparents got a letter from the school stating that if the child doesn't follow biblical standards, that's a quote, she will be refused re-enrollment next year. The letter reportedly went on to say students have been confused about whether tomboy Sunny is a boy or girl, and specifies that administrators can refuse enrollment for condoning sexual immorality, practicing a homosexual lifestyle, or alternative gender identity. And that's Nation News for Tuesday.